Focus, Stevie. Focus, Stevie. D-marker.
Okay, set, and action gate comes down. Action gate's coming down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and that's good right there. Very close. Right.
In August, when Stephen said, okay, we're going to make this movie and we need to prep it quickly and we're going to start shooting in November. And he said, but don't freak out. When you look at the script again, just recognize that, you know, there's 3 people basically in this movie. That's the heart of the film. And every now and then 1,000 people are running around in the background. And I would say that that probably pretty much sums it up.
Well, the interesting thing about the movie is that it's a series of encounters with the aliens that are tumultuous events for the humans. And once we had the first one secured, the idea in my mind was what's next? And that was the encounter on the ferry boat. So what we had to do was find a ferry that was the right size and everything that we could actually work with for the scale of the scene. But then we also had to find a place that we could have as a ferry dock. As it turns out, the first place that I found worked pretty well, and we went along that way for a long time until we ran into some location problems, and at the last minute had to change. So we had to build the entire ferry dock where the ferry comes to.
When we first read the ferry sequence, it was entirely different from what it became. That was where they came to us and said, you know, we'd like to put some military portrayal in. How do we develop this? What would you do in a similar circumstance? And since I couldn't get into our go to war against the alien plans, what we decided on was a sort of traffic control point where we would have military police and infantrymen working to help funnel these civilians to a safe point, which is a role that the military takes on in many circumstances.
And really, it's even in the book, it's really an encounter where people are narrowed down to a small passage, and now they're very vulnerable, and especially in this case when you're out on the water and now everything starts going wrong, you have nowhere to go.
We utilized a great deal of local support, and what we found was amazing was the spirit of the local people and their contribution. We really felt like we were in a community, very warm-hearted people. A lot of the extras there, we had 1,000, I think, each night that we shot the sequence. A lot of them traveled locally, and there was a great atmosphere and a great spirit and a great willingness to kind of hang out and be a part of the atmosphere of working on the movie, which kind of warmed everybody's hearts, and it made us all feel like we were one big communal family.
The cast includes every single one of you. You're so important to this production. So thank you for hanging in there with us. We'll be getting our cameras on your beautiful faces sooner or later. Back there, everyone.
The people that were in the movie, they haven't made a lot of movies, so they were very excited about the process and being on a movie set. And it was incredibly cold, and they were out there, you know, every single night doing this.
This woman right here needs a sweater. Okay. Or a big coat over the sweater so we don't see. Okay, it's okay. Something.
Servicing huge scenes with often like people in pouring rain and keeping everybody warm. We bought a lot of those hot packs, and I personally had them in every part of my clothing I could find. And then we gave the extras waterproof clothing underneath their costumes. And you just do the best you can. I mean, it's not easy, you know, shooting in the middle of the night, freezing cold or wet conditions, but the extras really, they rise to it.
What we're used to seeing, you know, from documentaries are refugees from Eastern Europe during World War II, or certainly refugees in Sarajevo and refugees from Rwanda. I mean, we're used to seeing refugees in tatters, you know, moving in great solemn funereal queues, you know, heading away from the danger zones. We're used to seeing that. But we're not accustomed to seeing the American refugee experience, where all these bright colors that we're always wearing, our bright day-glow orange knapsacks and our day-glow blue, you know, windbreakers, you know, and we're not used to seeing this in color
from an American cultural standpoint, we don't really know what we'd see here in America if that happened. We guess a lot. And so we started to show pictures to Stephen of some of the more modern refugee situations around the world. And he kept coming back, and rightfully so, saying, it's not American enough. You know, America is full of new, disposable, sort of thing. So we put some samples together for him of the baby jogger that would be stuffed with, brighter colored backpacks, and what it is that we think would have been the first things they would have taken out of their house. But it took us months to accumulate the right items and material, knowing that we would be making at least 1,000 different variations of carts. And we got a tremendous amount from thrift stores. I really like thrift because it is what people have held on to for like a year or two, and it's not too old. It's still kind of current.
The ferry was a big sequence. It was amazing how quickly main unit shot it. And this was an example of where we rehearsed all the people beforehand so they knew the height of acting that they had to achieve, because most people, when they first come on, overact. So we sort of brought their acting down, which is it sounds silly, but it's very essential to do that in advance. So when you do start shooting, you're not wasting half a day trying to get the people into the mode that you want them to be in emotionally. But that, again, was very cold. Night shooting's always tough. Very cold night. We had snow, rain, and everything. But they were busy nights, which is always a good thing. It helps you get through when you're tired. The busyness keeps you awake.